This is the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, session number 346, The Easy Way to Six Figures for Hypnotists.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Buckle up because we are about to have some fun. And perhaps you could already hear the smile in my voice because honestly, this is one of my favorite conversations to have. It's one that crushes objections. It's one that obliterates fears. And it's one that, quite honestly, starts to build a roadmap to an extremely successful business that, yes, is serving you in terms of being profitable and paying for your lifestyle, but also serving a bunch of clients and helping them to produce some outstanding results. So here's the roadmap of where we're about to go. And this is a solo episode, so I'm going to keep rolling forward here. We're not going to do our fancy music transition as we sometimes do. The story behind this is that oftentimes, and myself included, talk about the concept of a six-figure business. And that is a concept that many people have put up onto a pedestal as to a specific outcome, a specific desirable thing to achieve, which let me just be the first out there to call out a couple of things of this as a goal, which it's good to have, and you should definitely aim to be as successful as you choose to be. People were talking about six-figure incomes back in the 1970s and 80s, and thanks to inflation, it may be easier now than it was before. And yes, I know I'm speaking to an international audience, and because of exchange rates, six figures is very clearly a different amount of money based from the UK with British pounds to the US and our dollars to Canadian dollars to Australian dollars and even either other currencies as well. Still though, what I'm about to talk through, I've got some specific numbers and figures that I'm going to talk through here. Amounts like $50 or even 50 euros, 50 British pounds for a certain style of workshop I'm about to sort of detail here, as well as session rates, which might on average come out to be around 200 or so. So do not get caught up in the idea that this won't work where I live, because again, this is one of the most frequent lectures that I've given, and we're just giving it away on the podcast here this week. And with thousands of people having gone through the trainings that I've done, there are so many people who have used exactly what I'm about to share with you as a roadmap, as a place to aim their targets to get themselves up and running. Now, I'm going to do something a little special this week, which is my good friend Richard Nongard does a lot of infographics, and they're really cool. So let's do them too. If you go to worksmarthypnosis.com/346, this is episode number 346, that will redirect over to the show notes of this episode. And I'm going to get my graphic designer to actually make something that looks nice and hang it up in your office, hang it up in your home workspace. Let's call it that law of concentrated attention, that what you focus on, you're more likely to achieve. And yes, there may be some law of attraction to this, but then again, having something hanging up on the wall as this constant reminder is also the fact that yes, the last 5 letters of the word attraction are the word action. And if you're not taking action towards this, dare I say, extremely easy business plan I'm about to just give to you, that's what makes this happen. So I'm always cautious around giving out specific numbers and figures because the disclaimer is you get out of life what you're willing to put into it. And understand what I'm about to talk about is going to take some effort. Not as much effort as you may think, because we're about to change the nature in terms of how people come into our businesses. I constantly hear this dialogue around how you can't make a full-time living just seeing clients, you have to do other things. And I will maintain that for the dozen or so years since we opened up Virginia Hypnosis, and clearly now seeing hypnosis clients is not the only hypnosis thing that I do, I have still maintained an income of a six-figure income strictly from seeing clients. Then everything else is on top of that. And I say that never to brag or boast, but to let you know, this is possible. You know, it's the old metaphor around the 4-minute mile that people used to believe it was not possible. And then someone did it. And then the belief structure changed, and then high school kids were doing it. So I want you to take this episode, and even before I detail the exact steps, which again are surprisingly simple, before I detail it, I want you to step into that belief system that this is something you can do. Yes, you're going to have to devote time to it. Yes, you're going to have to devote energy to it. Yes, you're going to have to find ways to put yourself out there and let people know that this is a service that exists. But when you hear the way we're going to simplify the client journey, we're going to have some fun with this. Now, I will tell you, this is a lecture that, again, I've done inside of Hypnotic Business Systems, and I also share this as well when people go through Work Smart Hypnosis Live. You can find the details about those either products or events over at the show notes of this page. That's, again, that /346 page. But what I'll mention here is that I'm going to start with the end in mind. There's a bit of an aha, there's a bit of a surprise that usually occurs at the end of this lecture. And let me just give it to you now in one way to sell you on the reason to keep listening to the entire thing. It would be that when you hear the details of everything and what I'm about to share, this formula, I'm not sharing this to say it's an absolute model, and I'm definitely not sharing it to say it's the only model. But in the specific example that I've crafted as a case study, at the end of this, you're going to hear this is still technically a part-time job. This is still technically a side hustle. And the reality is, if you want to do more with it, well, do more. If you want to do less with it, and maybe that, pedestal of the six-figure income isn't quite your goal, hey, relax, do it to the quality and quantity that you want. That being said, here's a model to begin to branch out from. So let's begin to break this down as the easy way to six figures for hypnotists. And along the way, there's some resources that I'll mention as opportunities to make this a little easier for you as well. Phase one, it's a bit of a journey to sell someone on the idea of connect with me online or come into my office and spend this time with me one-to-one at respectfully a bit of a higher rate. So this is why, and if you've listened to me before, there's this whole lecture around changing the dynamic of don't make your first offer, call this number to book your session. We've got a thing running online, you've probably seen it, for Velvet Rope Strategy. It is the number one way, in my opinion, to change the dynamic so now you're the one interviewing your clients rather than them interviewing you. This is the easiest way to maximize your time and make it seamless so you're only speaking to people who are ready to change, understand the value of your services, and are willing to pay for it. You can get access to that. We've made that module of my training available for just $27. Go to velvetropehypnosis.com. And again, we'll put these in the show notes. So that's the preferred entryway that I tend to stand by the most. The reality is that Velvet Rope Strategy system is one that I only put into use in the last 5 years. So let's rewind back. I moved from Baltimore, Maryland to Alexandria, Virginia. And I opened up shop with Virginia Hypnosis. And at that time, I recognized that people weren't quite sure of what I did. They were a little cautious around the idea, and the idea of having to create the sales journey to bring someone into a program, into a service at a full professional rate. That's a bit bigger of a hurdle than what I was ready to promote, as I was brand new at it, as well as as to what they were ready to commit to. So think about this. What would happen differently in the shape of your hypnosis business if before the main offer, the core offer, as it's often said in marketing, of work with me one-to-one, what if we could do something in the in-between time as a different offer to give them a phenomenal experience? And then the reality is the easiest audience to sell to are people who have already done business with you. So here's exactly what I mean by that. Let's step out of theoreticals. Let's go into specific case study examples. What built my business was going out and doing business networking. I would go to the Chamber of Commerce. I would go to BNI, Business Networking International. I would go to Chamber of Commerce meetings. I would go to Rotary clubs. I would give talks. I put myself out there and I became visible. I became a part of the local community. And the whole philosophy of this was, let me represent myself and speak with passion about what I do professionally. And by accident, that'll bring me a lot of clients. And it did. And things went well. Yet I recognize that the journey from here's this stranger that is in front of me talking about this thing I haven't yet considered, it's a bit of a leap to then move that person into a bigger program. So remember what I said about what could you offer that's different as an in-between point. Now, in the marketing world, the concept I'm about to share with you is one that has been talked about before as a tripwire, which is a horrible metaphor because the tripwire is the thing that you accidentally trigger. When you trip over the wire, the bomb goes off, which is why other people in the marketing world eventually called this an entry-level offer, which kind of makes sense for the context that I've been talking about so far, that, well, before you come into the big program, let's use the exact words. It makes sense. Here's an entry-level offer. Now, I have renamed this, and let me poke fun of our loving industry. It's not that I've renamed it to then try to claim I invented it as my own, because there's a little too much of that right now in our world, of someone slapping a name on a technique that already exists, when meanwhile, you can read that techniques in books from 50 years ago. No, we're not doing that. I gave it a bit of a reframe instead, because this changes the dynamic of how you think about it. My phrasing of this, it's not a tripwire, it's not an entry-level offer, it's a value-added offer. And here's why I made that adjustment. Because the real concept of this is, there is now value going in both directions. So it's not that I'm selling a thing, though I am selling a thing, it's instead, by providing an outstanding value, I can respectfully ask for value in return. And that's always the formula for any transaction, any sale, any service we would provide. The quality and the quantity of the offers that you make is what directly is proportionate to the quality of the lifestyle and the income that we receive. So by changing the offer, and here's exactly what I did. It was an introduction to self-hypnosis workshop. Because people are curious. People are fascinated. And do you see how, for some people, it's a bit of a journey to then take someone from curious, just now learning about something, to let's jump ahead. I'm about to set up a theoretical where your entry-level offer is a self-hypnosis workshop, which then, another reframe coming your way, we do not, in the Work Smart hypnosis communities, believe in upselling. No. We upgrade. By looking at the word upgrade instead, it creates a linear journey. And by thinking of an upgrade, it requires that you now create a linear offer that now advances the relationship and helps the person even more. So it's not, and apologies if you do this, I'm just giving you this as an example, it's not, now that we're working on weight loss hypnosis, let me now try to sell you these supplements. No, it's instead, what can I do to better serve you in relationship to the context that we've already created? So as a preview, now that I've taught you self-hypnosis, you can probably create the results faster and easier by working with me one-to-one. Do you see how linear that is? That fits the model of an upgrade. So very clearly, we're moving them into something that's logical. It's why, again, as we look through our process, by changing the words, we can change the relationship in terms of what we do. So there I was, early days, networking, live talks, getting out there, and I wasn't trying to sell my one-to-one service at these events. I was inviting people to join me for an introduction to self-hypnosis workshop. You're going to learn a powerful technique that you can use on your own to begin to change habits, shift belief systems, and increase your confidence. How is that for an offer that was rather non-specific, and I would sell that for $50 a person? Now, let's throw in the disclaimer. We've already addressed the fact that we've made this work as a formula around the world. Students of mine in Germany, in Australia, and New Zealand, and Canada, and the US, and many others have used this. So that won't work where I live? No, we've made this work in the Bahamas as well. So on top of that, the other aspect that's important to mention, what if you're now doing everything online? Well, think about it. Couldn't you do this as a group Zoom workshop? Why, yes, you can. Yes, my students have, and yes, I have as well. And mind you, by the way, if you don't want to do the Introduction to Self-Hypnosis workshop, change it up. Maybe here's a weight loss workshop. Here's building confidence. Here's stress relief. We're going to create that value-added offer, again, entry-level tripwire concept, and we're going to now invite people into a group experience. Let me now start to nerd out on numbers. And by the way, those of you who have heard me give parts of this lecture before, I have now changed the references I'm about to give you to simplify this because I know many of you are just listening to me. However, again, you can go to the website worksmarthypnosis.com/346. I'm going to get my designer to make a cool sort of infographic on this. And again, hang it somewhere where you're going to see it every day as a reminder to get this message out there. The quality of the income, the quality of the lifestyle you have is directly proportionate to the quality and the quantity of the offers that you make. So if you build it, they will come is one part of the equation. You have to let people know that this exists. So everything that I was doing in the networking and the live talks is exactly what you can do inside of a Facebook group if you have your own, inside of another one if you have permission, always ask, to then share an opportunity with people. You can do a call out for this if you're the guest on a podcast. If you're ever speaking at a virtual summit, which there's a lot of those now, you can call out there. You can do Facebook Live. You can do Instagram Live. You can do TikTok. You can do whatever social media platforms haven't been invented yet. The concepts I share with you, I always start with the psychology of the process because the platforms of Facebook or business networking or TikTok or giving talks are inconsequential. It's instead, what's the strategy underneath it? When you understand the psychology of it, that's where you can apply it to anything else you will do. This is why I'm not just that person telling you what worked to grow a hypnosis business. It's instead why I'm that person telling you what is going to work in the future as well. That being said, sometimes there are some tips and tricks to this. Yes, I have done this exact formula in so many synagogues, so many churches, so many businesses, as well as so many sort of lunch and learns that Chamber of Commerce would host. So yes, there's some nuances to this. The formula. I would get 15 people in the room. At my office, we had a lobby, and that's where I can do some workshops. 15 people in the room, $50 a person. I'm going slow because now we're getting into math. I've done the math. You'll see it on the infographic we'll make available to you. And let's run the math on that. 15 people times $50 a person, whatever your currency may be, that becomes $750. Now let's just put this out there. For an hour and a half effort, that ain't bad. Now, as a side note, those of you who have gone through Work Smart Hypnosis Live, those of you that have access to Hypnotic Workers, those of you inside of those programs actually have the self-hypnosis workshop that I did. Limitless self-hypnosis. I would begin with my priming with hypnotic convincers, which you all have as episode number 270 of this podcast. I would actually then do a bit of a funny sequence as to, let me now give you the experience of hypnosis before we teach you self-hypnosis. So I would do a progressive muscle relaxation induction for the group. I would do some positive ego strengthening suggestions, which that was episode 4 of this podcast series. And then I would do an emergence with all sorts of positive expectation. I would then call for like a 5-minute intermission to go use the restroom or take care of whatever. And then we'd come back and then I would do the limitless self-hypnosis. That was my formula. I'm assuming if you're new to hypnosis, you're welcome to go through my trainings and see exactly what I did. If you're well-seasoned in this industry, you probably have something you could put together of your own, but that was the basic formula of mine. 90 minutes, hour and a half, $50 a person, 15 people for the event, and I would just promote that one thing. That was my next step offer. That was my value added offer. That was the entry level. Now, here's the formula that I'm tracking for you here. I'm going to have you do that twice a month. And easiest way to do that, just as an example, you don't have to do it this way. We're all hypnotists, so I'm allowed to give suggestions. Pick a weekday to do it in the evening. Pick a weekend to do it in the morning. Or vary it based on your schedule. Or again, if the six-figure pedestal is not something that you're looking to achieve, hey, do it once. And especially when you see the rest of the numbers I'm about to describe here, when you're about to hear the rest of the numbers and then see them later when you go to the show notes, you can recognize that we can bump up efforts in other places, come up with other offers, and that's a great way to then add some variation to this. So at the formula that I'm talking about right now, twice a month, and check this out. Remember, I already gave you the aha moment at the end of this. We're technically talking side hustle at this point, or a rather relaxed full-time job, full-time self-employed income. So in my math, just listen for now, I have you doing this twice a month for just 11 months of the year. Let's assume here comes December, and maybe you come up with the rationalization that people are so busy with the holidays. I'll take this month off. And actually, no. Absolutely do it in December. Do it 6 times in December because people need it more. August tends to be a dead month. But then again, there's other parts of the world. Hey, kids going back to school, the parents getting kids ready for college. There's always a blue ocean somewhere. There's always an opportunity somewhere. But again, just because I want to stick with this aha moment that this doesn't have to take up every bit of your waking hours, focus your efforts on filling up 2 events with just 15 people twice a month. Now, I did it for 15 because at my first office, that's all that fit in my lobby. Recognize with Zoom, you could go bigger, or if you had access to another space, or you already heard the sort of next level aspect of this, that I would do this at gyms, I would do this at yoga studios, and they'd bring in a whole lot more people. And that was always wonderful. So there's variation to this, but for the sake of the math right now, here it is. Stick with me. 15 people, $50 a head, $750 every time you do it, on average, and then twice a month times 11 months, and just create a mental note of this number, 16,500. So we're going to set that figure off to the side, which let me drop a reference here because we did pull Group Session Machine out of my training, and we have made that available to you as a solo module. So you can check that out. If you go to groupsessionmachine.com, in US dollars, we've made that module available for just $47. And we've made that affordable to make it easy for you, but also it's just something that I wanted to get out there because I hear so many people who are unnecessarily struggling. And this is part of my story. This is directly why you're listening to me and why you know who I am and why I have this audience that I do, because these were the things that I personally did to get up and running. So check that out, Group Session Machine. It's a bit of a no-brainer. It's going to walk you through in 5 different modules how to promote your event, how to fill it, how to ethically upgrade the people who are there, and just give you some nuances because there's no need to reinvent the wheel for less than the income you get from one attendee. We've made that available to you at groupsessionmachine.com. So that's part 1. Put a pen, 16,500. I mentioned this already. I changed the numbers for this illustration because what I used to say would be from the people at this event, you have one goal. Give them an incredible experience. Give them the best you possibly can. Show up with excitement. Give them genuine value. Deliver exactly what you are promising. That's what you should do in that presentation, whether you model mine or whether you come up with your own. Give them the most incredible experience because everything that you ever hear me talk about, business or influence, always comes around to the same principle. We ought to be communicating and presenting value in such a way that people wish to do more business with us even before we make a sales offer. So as much as I'm the guy who can get up and talk about business or give a workshop, which created a lot of stir in the industry, by the way, at Hypnothoughts this year, on how to sell high ticket on the phone, as much as that's what people know me and kind of brand me as, the reality is I'm not the guy you come to for clever objection crushers or closing strategies. It's instead, how do we communicate value in such a way that people are already telling themselves the stories and selling themselves into what we do? So it just takes a simple invitation to bring people to the next step. Which, by the way, for any of you out there with any hesitation around business or you have a negative perception around selling, do you hear how what I just said is very different than perhaps the stories you've already been telling yourself? So respectfully, step one, stop it. Step two, start to make use of some of the principles that I'm now sharing here. Because here's the pivot. Here's the language. It's the end of the workshop. Everyone's been given a great experience. You've made use in my world of some hypnotic phenomenon to validate the experience and demonstrate just how well they have done. And here's the pivot. The goal of the upgrade, not upsell, the goal of the upgrade is to further the conversation. It's to fill the logical next step of what they should do, and you need to make sure it doesn't create any negativity as to you didn't get what you needed. So now you really need this other thing. Have you ever bought software before and then realized it won't work unless I have all the other things? Now, we don't want to create that situation. You want to make sure when you're doing that entry-level offer that they're receiving everything they need to do in terms of that one thing that you've promised. So, quick funny story. There's one time a guy showed up to the event, and luckily he had the printout of the email confirmation, and he adopted this almost negative attitude of going, "You really expect me to believe that in 90 minutes you're going to teach me everything there is to know about hypnosis?" And rather than become confrontational, I played stupid. I played dumb. "Oh, I'm sorry if you've been led to believe that. Oh, good, you brought the confirmation. Can you show me where on that email it gave you that idea? Because I need to make sure we change that." And suddenly his attitude shifted because clearly I hadn't promised that. Therefore, let's use appropriate language, he was the jerk. No, instead, that was a moment where clearly I was promising, did you hear the name of the workshop? An introduction to self-hypnosis, to learn techniques you can use to begin to change habits, shift your belief systems, and increase your confidence. Those are all things that are a little bit more of a scale, right? None of those were binary. You will stop this. You will start that. No, I'm improving. I'm decreasing. That was very intentional in my language because let's call it out. I got 90 minutes and there's 15 of you in front of me. So I'm going to give them solid value. And here's the pivot into the upgrade. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me here today. And I share very politely that the techniques I've just given you are ones that the people who I've taught them to and have made use of them have seen some outstanding results. We all have books we haven't read or videos we haven't watched, and I'd encourage you to actually begin to make use of this because the people who make use of it are the ones that obviously I see the best feedback from. And I imagine that some of you, though, want to create those results faster and easier, which is why, yes, I do work with clients one-to-one in terms of specifically getting into the change you want to create. That way you've got a guide to make this happen again faster and easier. Here's how I do that. Here's what my availability typically looks like. See me after this event to learn more. Didn't feel like sales. Didn't feel like I was making an offer. It wasn't playing the game of, we didn't even need scarcity because the value had already been created from the self-hypnosis workshop. It was now simply an invitation. See me after this event. I had a line whenever I did this. Because again, the value had been created. Quality and the quantity of the offers that you make. So because I made the invitation And there were people who were already having a good experience from the workshop that they were already telling themselves the story. If he has something else, I'm going to join it. And again, that was the formula. Now, the numbers I'm about to give you are actually, full disclosure, lower than the ones that I used. Because in my early years, I was selling a 3-session program for $650. I'm going to use the math of 3 sessions for $600. I do like the $650 better. I had found the $650 sold better than $600. And we can modify this however you want to do it. As a preview, we're going to have you doing no more than 12 appointments a week, which that could be 3 days a week, 4 sessions. That could be 4 days a week, 3 sessions. Or you can go into marathon mode and do 2 days a week, 6 sessions. It's up to you. I'm just going to use these numbers here. I've reduced it down to 6 because it makes the math easier, especially because you're just listening to me right now. So that was my formula, which, by the way, unless there is a specific intention, unless there's a specific bigger framing around the process as to why you're offering a service as a one and done. So like I have modeled with permission Ken Guzzo's Stop Smoking protocol, which the framing around it is what presents the stop smoking with a service guarantee attached to it. So yes, it's promoted as a 1-session wonder. However, in reality, there's a lot of moving pieces that occur outside of the framework of 1 session, but let it feel like 1 session. And again, in that framework, people who feel they need more support, I'm available to them. Other than that specific kind of strategy, I tend to recommend start with a plan of 3. And here's the magic of this. It separates the thinking out of the binary, it either worked or it didn't, and instead now setting a process-oriented approach. And there are some purists out there who like to boast, I do everything in 1 session. And I've heard this before. They measure their results because people don't have to come back for more. Well, you know what? If it didn't work in the first session, they probably wouldn't have come back anyway. And we have classically found by setting the expectation of process, we can clean up those little fringe areas of the issue. The clients traditionally take the biggest leap forward in the first session. And then the remainder becomes about cleaning up some of the secondary type things that are around it. Now, here's my phrasing, and this is one I've shared on the podcast before, so let's not spend too much time on it. Listen to the phrasing intentionally. We start with a plan of 3 sessions, and if that's all we need, fantastic. However, if there's value in more, that's always an option. My goal is always to give you the most effective process and the most efficient use of your time. Can you tell I've said that a couple of thousand times now? What that specific phrasing telegraphs, which go back and listen to that again if you want, that specific phrasing telegraphs the reality that over the years, I've had people who were done in 3 and are now raving fans. And I want you to hear the rest of the story before you cast a judgment. I also have a couple of clients who I've seen more than 20 times. And they're also raving fans and sending referrals. And no, it's not the game that we're doing the same thing over and over. And you know what, Bill, one of these days it might stick. Come back, let's try again. No. The concept of what used to be called generative change, or as Michael Watson calls it, evolutionary change. I love that. It's setting the expectation that, you know what, here's the guy who solved this problem, but then let's call it out. He found a thing that helps him. And so he came back to work on something else with the skill set that he's already found to be effective. And let's call it out. I've been reminding him, hey, remember I taught you the self-hypnosis years ago? And he goes, I know, but I get a better result faster when I come to you. And that's a better use of my time, energy, and money. All right. So none of these 20 plus people are we still working on the same original problem. So keep that in mind. So that expectation, this is the easiest strategy. That is our official Work Smart hypnosis system to recommend to start with. Because again, now on top of that, yes, from a business standpoint, you don't have to book so many people. You need less people because they're now booking more. And in the words of Richard Nongard, for any of the purists out there saying there's no need for additional sessions, if all you're doing in the subsequent appointments is ego strengthening, ratifying the change they've already made, and here's the Nongard quote, either figuratively or metaphorically giving them a high five as to how well they've done, that is quality work that is compounding the reality of the change that they've created. So let me kind of set aside the 3-session model, but here's the invite. From the group session machine to now into a 3-session program, let's call it $600 for this example. Mine was $650. I made it $600 to make the math easier. So here we go. It's not that I'm telling you to book individual sessions for $200, though you could. It's instead, I'm having you start people with a program, which for anyone out there who's going now, that's too much. Well, again, look at how this is different than what you may have done before. We've already given them value. We've already brought them into a quality experience. We've already given them evidence that this stuff is helpful to them. Do you see that's now a different place to then make the invite of the 3 at $600? By all means, change this, modify this, but I think a lot of our industry needs to have a better perception as to the quality of the offers that we're making, as well as the quality of the value we can receive back. So at that point in the conversation, it's easier to ask for something of that caliber. So here we go. Here's the math. Stick with me here. I already hinted at this. From a 3-session program, your income per session based on this example, mine was higher. I lowered it for the theoretical for easier math. Individual sessions worked out to be $200. But again, you're not booking individuals. You're booking into a program. And remember, I'm not even giving you the situation that some people will choose to continue working with you on other things. So that's bonus on top of everything I'm talking about. So in my scenario, check this out. 4 sessions a day times 3 days a week, or 3 days a week, 4 sessions, 4 days a week, 3 sessions, or again, 2 days a week, 6. It's up to you. Or 1 day, 12, if you're a masochist. So 4 times 3, however you break it up, that's now $2,400 per week. And remember the epiphany that I already gave you. I'm now going to multiply that only by 40. Where did this 40 come from? I hear you cry. Well, there's 52 weeks in a year. And in the words of Michael Gerber, you need to focus at times at working on your business and not just in your business. I had a slightly heartbreaking conversation with someone this week who was not willing to turn off some of the hours of something that she admitted she didn't want to be doing anymore. Working in another person's practice, working with someone else's clients. She wanted to get rid of that, but she wasn't willing to reduce those hours down, which was an option available to her to start to build some of the business systems, to start to build up things like I'm talking about right now. You need to be willing to turn off some of what's working right now, to plant the seeds for bigger things to grow in the future. So look what I've just given you as a gift. Theoretically, you could take a week off every single month, right? 52 weeks in a year. Times, inside of 12 months. Inside of that, I'm only having you seeing clients, in this example, 40 weeks of the year. So technically speaking, you could devote an entire week, once a month, to building up your business, building the assets necessary to improve upon the example I'm giving you, producing video content. I give you the formulas for that inside of Hypnotic Business Systems. Creating digital products to supplement your income and bring in another stream of clients. Again, we have systems for that in Hypnotic Business Systems. Doing webinars, we have systems for that. You know my routine at this point. So again, 40 weeks. You've got a week off every single month to either devote to your business or spend time with family. But again, I have you doing, let's assume, 90-minute sessions. I don't have the math on this readily available. I got to do this just though for my entertainment. I'm going to assume it's a 90-minute session times 12. That's 1,080 divided by 60. Hey, that's only 18 hours of actually one-to-one client time. We're still technically part-time. Twice a month, you're doing group session. Here's the math. Per session rate from the program, $200. Weekly, 4 sessions times 3 is $2,400. So however you split that up, you're doing 12 a week. 12 a week times 200 multiplied by 40 weeks. That total alone, $96,000. And yes, this is not just about money, but look at the reach also of what you're creating. Oh, wait a minute, though. This was the easy way to six figures for Hypnotists. Jason, you only got us to $96,000. Oh, no. What to do? What to do? Oh, wait. Remember a little while ago I said, remember 16,500? That was 15 people times $50 times 11 months of the year times twice a month. Well, guess what? 96,000 plus 16,500 is 112,500. Oh no, we overshot our goal. Which I want you to think about this. What would it take for you to get out there and start to, one, use the right formulas so people actually notice what you're saying? I am not the world of telling you to go out and do 5 or 6 Facebook Lives every single day that, one, no one's watching, and two, are not giving quality offers. We're of the mindset of creating quality anchor pieces in your marketing that now work for you rather than you work for it. So this is a bit of a rolling boulder, snowball that gets bigger and stronger over time. The boulder doesn't get bigger, it just gets faster. And recognize it's more work in the early days. Everything begins active and then it becomes passive. This is the formula. This is a formula, there we go, that I recommend. And for many of you, I'd encourage you, hey, look, I've given you 12 weeks off of the year. I've given you theoretically an entire month off and beyond. Take some time. No. Make some time to start to map out and ask yourself, what would I have to do to make this occur? And this could be your only formula. And that's quite a comfortable living. This could also be one part of the formula because chances are, let's expand this. I already hinted at this one. Some of these people you're working with are going to want more from you, and they're going to want to book additional sessions. So that's addition to everything else we've already talked about. Chances are you may decide to create some sort of event, right? Where let's say you're going to do a one-day intensive of a group session around a specific theme, whether it's improving confidence in public speaking, whether it's weight loss. I love the micro niche, hypnotic weight loss for people doing intermittent fasting. The more specific you make the offer, the more you're raising up a flag for a very specific audience to respond to it. And what if it's people going, I'm not doing intermittent fasting, I'm doing ketosis. All right, next month, a weight loss workshop for people doing keto. Do you see the formulas here? So again, and let's say you're now 3 years in and you've got a lot of experience. Hey, join me and Richard Nongard at our Train the Trainer and become someone, because you're now someone who's actually doing the professional work of hypnosis. And you probably got some great insights as to what you figured out, that now you kind of qualify to be another person who's out there informing. And again, this is why I've said for years, the more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. Can you hear how excited I am about this? Can you hear how this doesn't have to be this big chore that so many people in this industry build up as this impossibility? There are so many opportunities that are out there. You just have to let people know that they exist. You have to create them. I've made it easy for you with a couple of different formulas here. You can grab Group Session Machine at groupsessionmachine.com and get up and running even faster and easier. Oh, did you hear that? Every upgrade offer is always the same formula. It's always, how do we help you to do something faster and easier? How's that? Look at that as a bonus there. But recognize the same way that we're all passionate about taking the next training to learn another cool set of techniques we can use to help our clients. The same way that perhaps we nerd out over some piece of new neuroscience that ratifies the work that we're already doing and we already know is effective. What happens for you differently when you bring that same passion, that same sort of problem-solving mindset that you bring to listening to your client and putting the process together? Really, that's what this week's episode was all about. If you continue to believe that it's going to be hard, that's all what it's going to be. The title of this episode, The Easy Way to Six Figures for Hypnotists. If you decide it's going to be easy, and make that decision, the questions you start to ask yourself begin to change. And it's not, that won't work where I live, or I can't do this in this location. It's no, where do I need to go to let people know that this is an option? And do you see how we made that value-added offer, that entry-level offer, easy, affordable, reasonable? And by the way, where did I come up with these numbers? I based it off of the assumption that of 15 people for each group, only 3 of them have to move forward. So it's a reality. Not everybody is going to go down that funnel with you. In this example, 1/5 of the room, 1/3. Do I do that math right? Yes. Yeah, 3. Yeah, 1/5 of the room. I didn't prepare that math. Is it 20%? And you're giving them a quality experience. And a good friend of mine says that the measurement of a good presentation is not the standing ovation. It's not the compliments. The measurement of an effective presentation is what percentage of that audience is willing to move further with you in that relationship. Deliver a quality experience, 20% is probably extremely conservative. So I'd encourage you to do 2 things. 3 things, actually. 1, go to worksmarthypnosis.com/346. That's where you can download this graphic and seriously print it out, hang it somewhere where you're going to see it. While you're there, we'll put a link to groupsessionmachine.com, as if you can't remember it because we made it that easy, and pick up that mini training. It's going to make this all a lot easier for you. 2, check this out for an advice piece. Go back and listen to this entire episode again and take notes and go into that deep work mode and shut everything off, turn off distractions, put your phone on airplane mode and listen to this once again and take some serious notes. And 3, put this into action. Jason Linett here once again, and as always, thank you so much for interacting with this program, leaving your reviews online, sharing these episodes in your ongoing conversations in the industry. And I'm serious about what I just said. 3 steps. WorkSmartHypnosis.com/346. Download the graphics, pick up Group Session Machine. If you don't already have it, it's just $47 US. Second of all, go back and listen to this entire episode all over again. Go into that deep work mode, shut off distractions, and take some serious notes. And 3, put this into use. Don't let this episode be, again, this is going to sound familiar, don't let this episode be like those books you haven't yet read, or those video courses you haven't yet watched, or these incredible ideas you haven't yet acted on. This is something I've made work. This is something folks in your communities, our shared communities, have made work. So put this into use, make it rain, and seriously, help a ton of people. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at WorkSmartHypnosis.com.
Hey, it's Jason here, and reading is lame and videos are awesome. So do this right now. Go ahead and click subscribe right here inside of this video, and that will link you to my YouTube channel, and you will be the first to find out as new information is shared here online. Click subscribe now. Stay in touch. I look forward to hearing of your success very soon.